So this guy wanted to know how was the prison realm able to bypass Gojos Infinity, and it's a pretty good question because from the outside looking in, Infinity is basically a near perfect defense. But what's great about the Jujutsu Kaisen power system is that everything has to abide by the rules of pacts and binding vows. And the conditions of the prison realm in order to seal Gojo was to capture the target if they spend 1 minute within the 4-meter range, and this depended on Gojo's perception. A near impossible condition worthy of capturing the strongest of the era, which is why there was so much setup in the first place. Once Gojo opened his domain expansion, it was game over. Essentially, there's nothing that the prison realm can't seal because it negates every rule. It keeps balance even with game-breaking bugs like Gojo, and there's other tools like this, such as the inverted spear of heaven, which can nullify any curse technique. But a main component in Jujutsu Kaisen is balance. That's why when Gojo was born, curses across the world became stronger. The universe will always find a way to maintain equilibrium. So this guy wanted to know how is Sukuna able to pull off the victory on Gojo. Now the simple answer is that Gege wanted to write out our local blue eyes white dragon for the sake of the plot. But the in-universe explanation is that Maharaga is basically the king of all cheat codes. Sukuna used Maharaga as a template, studying how it adapted to bypass Gojo's Infinity and modifying his cleave to that level. And Sukuna discovered that to get around Infinity, he had to cut through space and physically bisect Gojo. And Gojo simply didn't anticipate that Sukuna could copy Maharaga's technique like that, which seems like a cop-out, but whatever. So when Gojo destroyed the summoning wheel and Maharaga, he thought he caught the W, but it was actually a red herring. Sukuna caught him off guard, and Gojo was completely blindsided. So this guy wanted to know how did Hakari regrow his arm if he's incapable of using reverse curse technique. Now I think this is one of the greatest flexes in Jujutsu Kaisen. Yes, Hakari never acquired reverse curse technique, and that's because he never really had to. When Hakari bets it all on red and hits the jackpot, the infinite cursed energy overflowing in his body reflexively performs reverse curse technique in order to avoid damage. It's all instinct. And that means in the 4 minutes and 11 seconds following a jackpot, Hakari is effectively immortal. Now you might question, what about the issue of his inability to weave hand signs in order to manifest a domain expansion without the said arm? Well, as the Mad Lad Chad Toto once said, an arm is merely a decoration. The act of hand signs is an acclamation of the soul. So this guy wanted to know why didn't Toji take up the Gojo assassination contract when the bounty was 100 million? And no, Toji was not scared of a 12-year-old Gojo, but the reason is just as simple. Toji fell in love. When Toji met Miss Fushiguro, he actively chose to abandon his assassination and gambling lifestyle when he settled down with Megumi's mom. He even took his wife's name as a way to stick it to the Zenin clan, but shortly after Megumi was born, she passed away and Toji spiraled down, and as they say, bad habits die hard, and he transformed into the abomination we know and love today. And it was during this time before Megumi was born when Gojo's bounty was active, which is why he didn't take up the request. The tragic thing for Megumi is that he still believes that his parents are alive and that they ran away with the money that they got for selling him to the Zenin clan, never knowing that the name Megumi Fushiguro was a name born out of love, and as they say, that is the greatest curse of them all. So this guy wanted to know if Yuji and Choso are aware of the fact that they're brothers. And it's an interesting question because post Shibuya, I was always under the assumption that the two had an off-screen talk about their connection, but looking back on it, the undertones are actually quite vague. It's in Shibuya when Choso first reveals that him and Yuji are brothers, but considering what Itadori was dealing with in regards to Todo, he was overall very confused. After the chaos in Shibuya, Choso and Yuji are hanging out on some steps, and he's still overall pretty unconvinced of their brotherly connection to him and all the other death paintings. It's only after Yuta fakes his death and we see the backstory of Yuji's mom overtaken by Kenjaku does Yuji start actively referring to Choso as his older brother. Now it's never specified if Yuji witnessed this backstory like us the viewers, but moving forward into the Culling games, this brotherly bond between him and Choso is more or less established, which means Choso has forgiven Yuji and he has accepted the part he's played in eliminating his brothers. So this guy wanted to know how does the Six Eyes work and how does it better the Limitless? And this is a great question and I think it will shed some light on why Gojo is so powerful. The Six Eyes can break down the flow of cursed energy down to the atomic level and overall increase the efficient use of cursed energy. That's why it works so well with the Limitless, because the technique is insanely taxing on the user, so much so that the Limitless is nearly impossible to use effectively without the careful cursed energy control the Six Eyes provide. The Six Eyes also provides a lot of information to the user, allowing them to think faster and make decisions quicker, but this also leads to burnout, which is why Gojo has to wear glasses or a blindfold to negate that consequence. But if you're like Gojo and completely master your abilities, you can maintain your stamina and always be at 100%, thereby being explicitly overpowered. So this guy is making the claim that it was Yuta and Inumaki who assassinated the higher-ups in Jujutsu Kaisen, and honestly, I think it holds a lot of water. In chapter 222, you got Yuta and Inumaki en route allegedly to meet the higher-ups in their room full of candles. Now this hallway matches with the higher-ups room in chapter 137, when Yuta was first given his orders to take out Yuji, and earlier in volume 0 when Gojo speaks with them. And then in chapter 223, when we get introduced to the fact that they were massacred, the wounds they received seem to be done with a sword, with each attack either aimed at the head or the heart, ergo swiftly executed deaths. Now this wasn't done by Gojo because the aftermath doesn't match his style, and he was also preparing for his fight with Sukuna. So it's very likely that Yuta and Inumaki were working on his behalf, and the duo together would have been more than enough to complete this job. People tend to think that Yuta is quiet and sensitive, but honestly, he's more morally twisted than you might imagine, not to mention he shares Gojo's philosophy.